Dear ladies and gentlemen, 12 powerful things to tell yourself every morning. Soft piano music fades as she steps onto the stage. A hush falls over the room. My precious forensic, it is morning again. And with the morning comes a gift. Not wrapped in paper, no. Wrapped in breath. Wrapped in mercy. Wrapped in the miracle that you are still here. So before you rise, before the noise and demands and distractions rush in like a flood, let the first voice you hear be your own. And let it be powerfully true. Now take your hand. Yes, go on. And place it over your heart. Feel that. That is purpose. That is heaven saying, you are still needed. And so every morning say this, before the world has a chance to speak to you. Before the emails, the headlines, the noise and the opinions come flooding in. You must speak to yourself. You must be the first voice your soul hears, because the world does not hesitate to remind you of your flaws, your limits, your failures. You're not enough. But you, with a spirit anchored in truth, must remind yourself who you are before any other voice has the chance to decide for you. There is power in the spoken word, more power than most people realize. Words are not empty sounds. They are containers of life or death. They build or break. They release healing or sow hurt. And the most potent words are not the ones others speak over you. They are the ones you speak over yourself. That's why the first thing you say in the morning matters more than you think. When you open your eyes, you are standing at the threshold of the day. And thresholds are sacred. They are a space of transition, of possibility. What you plant in that first moment sets the tone for everything else that follows. It's like sowing a seed at dawn. Whatever you place in the soil of your heart will grow throughout the day. So what will it be? Fear or faith? Shame or strength? Hesitation or hope? Speak life. Speak hope. Speak truth even when you don't feel it yet. Especially when you don't feel it. Because your soul often needs to be led, not followed. You don't wait for your emotions to give you permission to declare something good. You declare it and your emotions will follow. That's not denial. That's discipline. That's spiritual authority. Tell yourself, I am chosen. I'm equipped. I am not here by accident. I am not waking up to survive another day. I am waking up to fulfill purpose. These words are not vain affirmations. They are declarations of your identity, rooted in something higher than mood or circumstance. You're not speaking to flatter yourself. You're speaking to remind yourself. The truth is, you've already heard enough of the opposite, from childhood, from toxic relationships or impossible standards. You've heard, you're not enough. You're too much. You've missed your chance. You'll never change. But every morning gives you a sacred opportunity to break those patterns, to rewrite the script, to realign with what is actually true about you. And here's the beauty of it, you don't have to feel powerful to speak powerfully. Your voice can shake. Your hands can tremble, your eyes can be filled with tears. But if you speak life, if you say it out loud, you've already started to shift the atmosphere. There is something holy about choosing to rise up in the middle of the ordinary and call forth something greater. This is how you change your life, not in one dramatic moment, but in daily, faithful choices. And the first of those choices is what you tell yourself when the day begins. It's easy to believe the worst about yourself, to rehearse your failures, to focus on what you lack. But it takes courage to rise up, look in the mirror, and speak life anyway. That's not arrogance. That's warfare. It's how you take back the territory that fear tried to steal. When you speak life over yourself, you begin to shift your inner atmosphere. And once the atmosphere inside changes, the way you walk into the world changes. You carry a different posture, a different energy, a different clarity. You don't need validation when you've already affirmed the truth. You're not desperate for approval when you've already declared purpose. You don't crumble under criticism when you've already anchored your identity. There is a deep and often quiet war inside many people. A battle between who they were and who they are becoming. The past has a loud voice. It echoes with memories, mistakes, regrets, and moments you wish you could erase. It speaks in shame and whispers in guilt. And if you let it, it will define every room you walk into, every relationship you build, and every dream you try to pursue. But you were never meant to live chained to yesterday. Grace has always had the final word. What you did is not who you are. The choices you made in fear, the failures that marked your journey, the seasons when you fell short. None of those have the authority to declare your identity. They are part of your story, yes, but they are not the whole of it. Grace rewrites, grace reclaims, grace restores, and grace tells a different story. It speaks with love that doesn't make sense to the world. It says, you are more than what happened to you. You are more than what you did. The past is factual. It's real. It happened. But grace is transformational. It's not a denial of the past, it's the redemption of it. Grace looks at your worst day and still calls you worthy. It walks into the room where you lost yourself and says, "You still belong." Grace doesn't flinch at the mess. It doesn't turn away from your scars. It moves toward them, with healing in its hands. So when the voice of the past rises up in your mind, you must answer it. Don't let it go unchallenged. When it reminds you of who you used to be, you remind it of who you're becoming. Speak the truth. That may have been my chapter, but it is not my conclusion. That season may have hurt me, but it did not ruin me. That failure may have slowed me down, but it did not disqualify me. You have the authority to say, "Grace defines me now." And let's be honest, Stack. People will try to hold you hostage to the old version of yourself. Some will not understand the healing that has taken place inside of you. Some will only remember who you were at your lowest, and that's okay. Their understanding is not your prison. You don't need permission from others to be new. You don't need everyone to agree with your transformation. The only thing you need is the courage to walk in it. You are not obligated to carry shame just because someone else refuses to let go of it. You are not defined by your divorce, your addiction, your broken season, or the years you lost to confusion or fear. Grace does not keep score. Grace does not hold grudges. Grace does not shame. It covers, and it covers with power, with compassion, and with purpose. When you wake up in the morning, the past will often be the first thing to greet you. That's why you must be ready. You must have the words on your lips before the weight returns to your chest. Declare it. Grace is my identity. I am not who I was. I am growing. I am healing. I am walking forward. I am covered. I am free. You're not pretending your mistakes didn't happen. You're refusing to let them define your future. Grace makes room for you to begin again. It gives you the space to breathe, to rebuild, to return to who you truly are under all the layers of regret. It's not about perfection. It's about progress. Grace doesn't wait for you to get everything right. It meets you where you are. And every single morning, it arrives fresh, ready, overflowing. It doesn't run out, no matter how many times you've needed it. There is something eternal planted deep within you. A force greater than ambition, deeper than success, and more lasting than applause. That something is love. Love is not weakness. It is not soft sentiment. It is power's legacy. It is the only thing you carry beyond time. The world may tell you that love is optional, that it's a luxury, or that it must be earned. But love is the truest thing about you. It is your essence, your calling, and your inheritance. When everything else fades, when the noise quiets and the titles are gone, what will matter is how you loved, not how well you performed, not how much you accumulated, not how many people admired you from a distance. Love is the thing that lingers when the spotlight goes dark. It is the fingerprints you leave on another's soul. It's the words you spoke that gave someone hope. It's the way you paused long enough to truly see someone who thought they were invisible. To live a life of love is not to live without pain. In fact, to love is to open yourself to the possibility of heartbreak. But love dares anyway. Love shows up even when it's inconvenient. It sacrifices without broadcasting it. It forgives when it would be easier to shut down. It reaches across the lines the world has drawn and it says, "You still belong." Love doesn't wait for conditions to be perfect. It shows up in the mess, in the chaos, in the middle of uncertainty. You may not remember everything about a person, but you will always remember how they loved you. You'll remember the tone of their voice when you were scared. You'll remember the way they stayed when others walked away. You'll remember the quiet gestures, the words they didn't say but still meant. That's the power of love. It imprints on the soul. It builds legacies not on platforms but in hearts. Every morning, remind yourself that love is not just something you give. It's who you are. It's woven into your being. You were made in love for love, to give love. And no matter what the world tries to harden in you, that truth remains. When you start your day with love as your compass, everything changes. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to compete. You don't need to demand attention. You simply live in alignment with your true identity. There will be voices that call love navi, that say it doesn't get results. But what those voices don't understand is that love transforms. It doesn't just change situations. It changes people. It heals. It rebuilds what bitterness tried to destroy. It softens what fear tried to harden. It restores dignity where shame once lived. That kind of power cannot be manufactured. It can only be chosen over and over again. To love is also to lead, not with force but with presence. When you love deeply, you carry a kind of influence that can't be taught. It flows from who you are. People feel safe around you. They feel seen. And when people feel seen, they begin to heal. They begin to rise. They begin to remember their own worth. That is the legacy you leave, whether or not anyone writes your name down. Every word you speak is a seed. Every act of kindness is a ripple. You may never know the full impact of your love, but heaven keeps the record. And the impact is always deeper than you can measure. You don't have to wait for a stage to love boldly. You don't have to have it all together. Just show up as you are, and love be louder than fear. Let it guide how you speak, how you forgive, how you show mercy, how you walk through your day. Love is your legacy, and no act of love, no matter how small, is ever wasted. There is a difference between reacting and responding, between panic and peace. Every morning when you open your eyes, you are given a choice, whether to carry the weight of yesterday's anxiety into today or to rise with a different spirit. Peace is not passive. It is not the absence of conflict or noise. Peace is a decision, a posture, a position of the heart that says, even if the storm rages around me, it will not take over what's inside me. You carry peace, not panic, because peace has been placed in you as a promise and as a power. Panic comes quickly. It disguises itself as urgency, as pressure, as the need to fix everything immediately. It tells you that you are not safe, that you're behind, that you must hurry or you'll lose your place. But panic lies. Panic steals breath. Panic clouds clarity. Panic makes you react out of fear instead of move in wisdom. That's why you must learn to recognize the sound of panic and choose not to follow it. Peace, on the other hand, does not scream. It whispers. It speaks quietly, but with authority. It reminds you that you are not alone, that there is time, that you are held, and that what is meant for you cannot be taken by chaos. Peace teaches you to breathe again. It teaches you to slow down, to listen, to discern instead of rush. Peace doesn't ignore the reality of difficulty. It simply refuses to let difficulty dictate the outcome. There will always be something trying to shake you. Bad news, uncertainty, disappointment, delay. The world will offer you 1,000 reasons to be afraid, to be restless, to be hurried. But peace is not based on what's happening around you. It's rooted in who you are and who you trust. It's the steady center when everything else feels like it's spinning out of control. And that center is built, not inherited. You build it day by choosing to return to truth. To carry peace means you walk into rooms and change the atmosphere. Not because you have all the answers, but because your spirit is anchored. You don't have to fix everyone. You don't have to explain everything. You don't have to absorb all the tension. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply stay calm. Your calmness is not indifference. It's strength. It's the proof that you are rooted in something unshakable. Peace is also what allows you to love well. You cannot love from a place of panic. You cannot pour from a restless soul. When peace fills you, you respond to people with gentleness instead of defense. You listen more than you speak. You move slower but with more power. You notice the needs around you because your vision isn't clouded by fear. Carrying peace is not something that just happens. It is practiced. It is fought for. It is guarded. And one of the first ways you guard it is with your words. Speak peace into your morning before the day begins. Say it out loud if you must. I am not overwhelmed. I am not behind. I am not alone. I choose peace today. Your words plant seeds, and what you plant in the morning will bloom throughout the day. Panic wants you to believe that everything is urgent, that your worth is at risk, that disaster is always around the corner. But peace reminds you that you are not at the mercy of your circumstances. You are grounded, you are led. You are not without help. And every single time you choose peace over panic, you build a foundation that fear cannot shake. There is something sacred about knowing who you are and being at peace with it. In a world that constantly tries to mold you into someone else, to fit into boxes you were never designed for, the most powerful act you can make each morning is to remember your calling. You were not made to live as a copy. You were not created to blend in. You were uniquely called, intentionally designed, divinely equipped to carry something that no one else can carry in the way that you can. Comparison is one of the fastest ways to kill your calling. It starts subtly. A glance, a scroll, a moment of doubt. Someone else is further ahead. Someone else is more polished, more praised, more followed. And suddenly, what you were once passionate about begins to feel small. What you were once excited to build now feels insufficient. But calling is not measured by applause. It's not validated by numbers. It's not proven by public success. But your calling is sacred because it was spoken over you before anyone else had an opinion. When you wake up and tell yourself, I am uniquely called, you are declaring war on every lie that tries to make you shrink. You are reminding yourself that you don't need to be louder, flashier, or more like them. You need to be faithful to your assignment. No one else carries your exact combination of experiences, your voice, your vision, your heart. You are entrusted with something specific, and the more you compare, the more you delay it. Comparison distracts. It drains energy from what you can do by making you obsessed with what others are doing. It whispers that you're not ready, that you're not enough, that someone else would do it better. But calling is not about perfection. It's about obedience. It's not about being impressive. It's about being available. The question is never, do I measure up? The question is, am I willing to show up? You were not called to fill someone else's purpose, and they were not called to fulfill yours. Their success doesn't threaten yours. Their breakthrough doesn't delay yours. There is room enough in the kingdom for every voice, every gift, every assignment. Scarcity is a lie. The truth is, the more people who rise into their callings, the more freedom there is for all of us. We are not in competition. We are co-laborers. Your light doesn't dim mine. It helps light the way. When you live from the truth of your unique calling, you walk differently. You speak with clarity. You don't rush into things just to prove a point. You wait for the right time because you trust the one who called you. You move with confidence, not arrogance. Because confidence is not about being better. It's about being secure. It's about knowing that what you carry is valuable and needed. There will always be someone doing something similar to what you're called to do. But no one can do it with your voice. Your story matters. Your scars matter. Your process, your passion, your personality. None of it is wasted. It all becomes part of the calling. You don't need to strive to be different. You already are. The goal is not to stand out for the sake of attention. The goal is to be true to the calling you've been given. Every morning, remind yourself that comparison has no authority over you. Refuse to look sideways when you've been called to walk forward. Celebrate others, yes. Honor their wins, yes. But don't let their journey make you question yours. What's inside you is not random. It was planted with intention. And your calling doesn't require permission from anyone else to begin unfolding. Every day brings with it 1,000 tiny decisions, each one carrying the potential to shape your path. And in the quiet of the morning, before the noise begins, you must make one of the most important decisions of all, to choose joy. Not the kind of joy that waits for perfect circumstances, not the kind that depends on whether the sun is shining or the news is good. This joy is deeper. It is stronger. It is a choice rooted in something that cannot be shaken by the temporary. Joy is not the same as happiness. Happiness is a feeling that comes and goes, rising and falling like waves. It is influenced by what happens around you. Joy, on the other hand, is internal. It is a well that never runs dry, even when the external world feels barren. Joy is the quiet confidence that even in the unknown, even in the waiting, even in the trial, there is still goodness, there is still beauty, there is still purpose. Choosing joy doesn't mean denying pain. It means not letting pain have the final word. It's looking at a situation and saying, yes, this is hard, but I will not let it steal the light from my eyes. It's waking up and deciding that gratitude will be louder than complaint, that hope will rise above fear, that you will find something to celebrate, even in the middle of the struggle. Joy is not shallow, it's fierce. It's a rebellion against despair. There are days when joy will feel natural, when the air is light and everything flows. But there will also be days when it feels like a fight, when joy feels far away and darkness presses in. Those are the days when choosing joy becomes a declaration of war, not against the world, but against the lie that you are powerless. Because you are never without choice. You are never without the ability to lift your eyes, to open your mouth, to speak life where death tried to reign. Joy doesn't always look like laughter. Sometimes it looks like stillness. Sometimes it looks like breathing deeply when anxiety tells you to panic. Sometimes it looks like lighting a candle, or playing your favorite song, or whispering a prayer when no one else sees. Joy lives in the small things. It's not always loud. It's not always bright. But it is always available if you are willing to look for it. And here is the true thing: the more you choose joy, the more natural it becomes. Not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger. Your perspective shifts. Your spirit grows resilient. You begin to see through the fog, to spot the miracles that used to pass you by unnoticed. Choosing joy is like building muscle. It requires repetition, but over time it changes how you carry everything else. Joy also multiplies when shared. When you carry joy, it spills over. It lifts others. It opens hearts. It breaks chains. You become a light in rooms that have grown dim. You remind people that joy is still possible, still real, still worth fighting for. You don't have to preach it. Just live it. Your presence, your peace, your steady hope becomes a testimony louder than any speech. Every morning, before the demands come rushing in, before the to-do list and the headlines and the voices of pressure, pause, take a breath, and tell yourself, I choose joy. Not because everything is perfect, but because joy is my strength. Because joy is my inheritance. Because joy is how I move forward when life tries to hold me back. Let be your anthem, your foundation, your weapon, and your shield. Let joy rise even when the world tries to push it down. Let it live in your eyes, your words, your posture, your decisions. Let it be who you are. There is a quiet but undeniable strength in simply refusing to give up. In a world that celebrates overnight success and instant results, perseverance often feels overlooked, but it is perseverance that builds true greatness. It is the long obedience in the same direction. It is the rising again after another disappointment, the standing up when it would be easier to stay down, the steady hand on the plow when no one is watching. Perseverance is not glamorous. It is gritty. It is sacred. It is what separates the dreamers from the finishers. Every morning when you awaken to face another day, there is a voice that rises inside of you. A voice that says, I will not quit. That voice isn't always loud. Sometimes it trembles. Sometimes it whispers through tears. But it speaks with resolve. It doesn't wait for motivation. It doesn't need applause. It simply shows up. And showing up is powerful. When you keep showing up, even in weakness, even in doubt, you are proving to yourself and to the world that you are built for more than one hard moment. There are things that can only be birthed through perseverance. Depth of character, wisdom that lasts, unshakable faith. These are not formed in ease or comfort. They are forged in resistance, in pressure, in seasons that require more of you than you thought you had. But as you persevere, you discover something beautiful, that you are stronger than you believed, that you can bear more than you imagined. That grace meets you not just in the victory, but in the struggle. It is tempting to believe that delays mean denial, that if something hasn't happened yet, it never will. But delay is often a refining fire. It burns off impatience. It humbles pride. It teaches you to lean into trust rather than control. And that kind of strength is not just useful, it's necessary. Because if the foundation isn't strong, the weight of the dream will crush it. Perseverance builds the kind of foundation that can sustain your calling. There will be days when quitting feels like the logical choice. When everything inside of you says, this is too hard, this is too slow, this isn't working. And in those moments, you must remember your why. You must remember the reason you began, the promise you heard in your spirit, the glimpse of something that called you forward. You must hold it tightly, even when nothing else makes sense. The road may not look like you expected. The path may twist and narrow, but if the calling is true, the fight to continue will be worth it. Perseverance is also about grace. It's not about striving endlessly or pretending you have it all together. It's about staying in the process. It's about trusting that progress doesn't always look like movement. Sometimes it looks like rest. Sometimes it looks like tears. Sometimes it looks like starting again. But through it all, the heart that refuses to quit becomes the heart that finishes strong. You may not see the fruit right away. You may feel invisible. You may wonder if your effort matters. But every time you choose to keep going, something is happening beneath the surface. Roots are growing. Muscles are strengthening. Foundations are forming. And one day the harvest will come. Not just of results, but of transformation. Of a life that was not built in a moment but formed over time. The world needs more people who won't quit. Who will keep building, keep believing, keeping when the outcome is uncertain. Your perseverance becomes a light, a testimony, a source of strength for others who are watching and waiting for someone to prove that endurance is still possible. So every morning, rise with the spirit of one who continues, who endures, who keeps showing up not because it's easy, but because the purpose is greater than the pressure. You carry something the world desperately needs, and that something is not perfection. It's love. Every morning, before you put on your plans, your titles, your ambitions, you must clothe yourself with love. Not the kind of love that waits to be earned or returned, but the kind that flows freely, because it is rooted in the truth of who you are. You are not just called to receive love, you are called to be love. To walk into rooms and shift the atmosphere. To look into faces and see the unseen. To speak words that heal instead of harm, that build instead of break. Love is not weakness. Love is not silence. Love is not passive agreement. Real love is strong. It stands up when it would be easier to stay quiet. It leans in when it would be safer to step back. Love sees the whole person, their pain, their history, their potential, and chooses compassion over judgment. To carry love is to make the conscious decision to lead with understanding, not assumption. It is to choose kindness when frustration rises, to offer patience when time feels tight, to listen longer than is comfortable. You will never regret loving well. You may regret words said in anger, silence kept in fear, walls built from insecurity. But love, authentic, selfless, intentional love, leaves no regrets, even when it costs you, even when it stretches you. Because love is never wasted, it always leaves a mark. Sometimes love softens hard places in others. Sometimes it transforms you from the inside out. But it always moves something, it always brings light. Loving people is not always easy. Some will misunderstand you. Some will reject what you offer. Some will not be ready to receive. But love isn't a transaction, it's a choice. You love not because it's deserved, but because it's needed. You love not to get something back, but because you are full enough to give. Love cannot flow through a heart that is dry. That's why you must stay connected to the source. You cannot pour what you do not possess. So you must begin by letting love reach you first, healing your wounds, replacing your shame, calling you beloved. When you love yourself rightly, you stop demanding perfection from others. You stop measuring their worth through your own pain. You stop withholding grace just because someone failed your expectations. To love others well, you must be tender with your own soul. You must let go of bitterness. You must forgive where there has been betrayal. You must speak life over the parts of yourself that have felt too broken to matter. Love flows best from a heart that has made peace with itself. In a world full of harshness, love stands out. It is not loud, but it is unmistakable. You feel it in the way someone listens, in the way they speak your name, in the way they choose mercy over mockery. The world is watching, not to see how powerful you are, how smart you are, how influential you are, but to see how well you love. That is the true measure of greatness. That is the legacy that lasts. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel when they were with you. Love does not mean agreement. It means presence. It means seeing someone in their mess and refusing to walk away. It means holding space for difference while still offering dignity. It means believing the best when others choose to assume the worst. Love refuses to reduce people to their worst day, their hardest moment, their biggest failure. Love calls people higher. Love says, you are more than what hurt you. You are more than the label. You are more than the struggle. Every morning you must decide, will I react from fear or respond with love? Will I armor up or will I open up? Because love is not just an emotion. It is a decision to stay soft in a world that tells you to harden. It is a risk, yes, but it is also the reward. Love opens doors that talent cannot. Love mends things that time alone cannot. Love plants seeds in hearts that may bloom long after you've moved on. So rise every morning with your heart set like flint, your spirit tuned to heaven's frequency. Speak these truths to yourself, not as empty affirmations but as living declarations. You are made with intention, filled with purpose, and sent to this moment in time with a calling that cannot be cancelled. Do not bow to fear. Do not shrink beneath comparison. Do not wait for perfect conditions to begin. You are already equipped, already chosen, already enough. Let every step you take echo with boldness. Let your words heal, your joy disarm, your love restore. And as you go, remember, the power is not in the world around you. It's in the spirit within you. Speak life, live truth, and carry fire.